All right, we're back. Episode 16 of the Young Old Heads podcast. 16 episodes nowadays. I'm one of your hosts, Tommy, aka TV Sports Cards. I'm here with my good friend and host, Max, aka Cards Max. Cards Max, how you doing, man?
It is 11:48 p.m. on a Sunday night. This is Young Old Heads After Dark. It is a Sunday night. I have to do my shipping for Monday morning after this, and I am living life.
Yeah, we love a late night edition of the Young Old Heads podcast. Hey, I even sold some cards today. Very rare. So I'll be shipping out tomorrow, but I'm back home in California this week for my sister's wedding on Saturday. So I have to get all my stuff together for that, but I also obviously am doing cards. Cards don't sleep. Cards don't care what else I'm doing in life. So I'm out here, I'm organizing my Gold Cup binder, which actually, Max, big announcement here.
Big enough.
Gold Cup Binder has officially become Gold Cup Binders with two. The 100-page big thick binders no longer fit all my gold cups. I had to expand to two binders. So that's my big news from coming home.
Are you using a zip folio or are you using a traditional 3-ring?
Oh, I go traditional 3-ring with my big PCs. The folios I like for when I'm at back in Chicago. I like that for like having one really nice folio to show off to my friends who like don't know anything about cards and being like, hey, flip through this like, whatever it is, like 20 pages or whatever. But when I'm home, I like I'm a bulk collector. I like to have a lot of different cards, a lot of cheap cards. So I like my big, thick, 100+ page binders. If anyone, once I have my own place in Chicago and have enough space to like actually have all my binders out there, which is probably like around 10,
Your
10,
own place.
100.
I was gonna say your own place in Chicago is a metaphor for the new Young Old Head studio.
Yeah, true. When we expand to a studio and have my own apartment. I mean, I have an apartment, but it's just extremely small. So if anyone if any of my homies are out there listening to this who have seen my apartment, they know that I can't fit 10 100+ page binders in there. But yeah, that's why I have to bring cards home. It's a classic young old heads ish dilemma of what cards do I keep on my person and what cards do I store at my parents' house. I know that's something that you often, I mean, you're living with your parents right now, right?
Yes, I'm living with my parents right now. When I was away in college, it was always an ordeal shipping or in some cases, driving my eBay inventory to and from college and recognizing which stuff that I want to bring with me to school, which stuff I don't, because my PC stuff, the Severino binder did not come with me to North Carolina. What if my house burned down? Then I wouldn't have my Severino binder. I have to
I
make
have
sure that touch space in New York.
I have a box of cards here that I'm like, if the house is burning, I tell this to my parents, you guys better take this box with you because this is important. But can we get a life update, Max? We haven't really got a Cards Max life update in a little bit. Can we get one?
So, life update is I am sending out job applications during the weekdays and I am at card shows during the weekends. I hit up two shows this weekend. I believe it was the Big Apple Empire State show on Saturday and then my local Long Island show on Sunday. And then I've been setting up at a show in Middlesex, New Jersey. I believe upcoming Saturday. So this upcoming Saturday or this upcoming Sunday, but it's in Middlesex, New Jersey. And then the following weekend is the East Coast National at Rockland Community College. I believe it's either 2 or 3 day show. I know there is a trade night, but that should be the biggest show in the country during that week, and that's always fun. I like my card.
Dang, I don't even associate myself with the East Coast at all. So when I hear about these things happening, I just don't even register with me because they're not happening to me as someone living on the West Coast, that's Midwest. But Max, you mentioned something that I don't hear you say often. I hear you going to card shows a lot. We start most episodes talking about a card show that one of us have been at, but you're setting up at a show?
I am setting up at a show. The table fee was very affordable, and I know I've had a few unofficial setups in the past, but this will be an official Cards Max setup in Middlesex, New Jersey on Saturday.
You love saying Middlesex, New Jersey, but
Well,
can
how
we
else
talk
would
about
you
this? Is this
describe
your
it?
first time setting up at a show officially?
This is my first time setting up at a show officially. I'm not sure what my game plan is. I've been surveying a few other friends who set up sometimes. I know because the biggest thing that I've heard is that the most important thing isn't selling your own cards. And we've talked about this last episode in that card shows are a flea market per se for cards because everything is going to be under comps no matter what. But you want to be the buyer so that you can sell online if you're focused on the profiting and the making money aspect. Obviously, in conjunction with shows is finding the huge dollar bin buys. The show that I went to today, my local show, I had $30 in dollar bins, and that was that. I did not touch a single higher end card than something worth more than $5. But setting up at this show, I know it's a small show, so I don't know what entirely to expect. I know that I'm going to be open-minded. I know I'm going to have my cards on a table, and I'm going to use that to talk about them because I enjoy talking about my own cards. I have a nice compact card backpack, and all of my cards and graded cards are sleeved. And that is something I've debated a lot, whether to sleeve your top loaders and graded cards, because I think they make the eye feel worse. But for cosmetics and for labeling purposes, I'm sleeving my cards, and this is a big moment for me when I inevitably will set up officially next week in the town that I apparently love, Middlesex, New Jersey.
You just threw so much info at me there. I'm just absorbing it for a
I
sec.
I'm
But
in
what I heard there is you're excited to set up because one, you can buy at cheaper prices because people will come to you as a dealer and be like, "Hey, I'm willing to offload this to you at this percentage of comps." Is that what I heard?
give or take, yes. And some people just want cash, and that's completely okay. Like the whole purpose is to cash someone out, to give them more show money, to give them cards that were otherwise just sitting in their closet, and to take the work off it. But I try to be really transparent in saying I am not going to be eBay. I'm going to be this number. Let's 70% is the convenient number if you're selling to me. Because really, I don't really want to be buying, in the context of cashing people out, I don't want to buy at full price. Of course, there are many times that I buy at comps or above comps, and usually that's for online stuff that's rarer, that I have more of an intent behind than just cold hard flip.
Yeah. And you bought some cards. You're always posting cards on Twitter saying, "Hey, I bought these this week." You bought a card last week that sparked my own attention as a collector and was one that I was surprised I hadn't seen in a picture of you taking a selfie with or something before. But can you tell the people anxiously waiting on the other end of this podcast what card I'm talking about?
The roots. I'm hearing my echo.
No,
Wait.
you're good, bro. You're good.
Okay. I was worried. I was worried.
I think you're good. I think you're good.
No, we're rolling. We're rolling.
Keep it
We're
rolling.
sure.
Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
Blooper reel.
Blooper reel.
So the roots of this podcast, one of the things that really spurred this was me and Tommy's strong dissection of Topps Chrome autographs and of Hall of Fame candidates who have Topps Chrome autographs. And one of the biggest cruxes in the entire run is Buster Posey, who only has a Topps Chrome Rapper Refractor autograph from 2010, which has 92 total copies. This past weekend, I officially acquired said autograph. It is probably the most valuable card that I have owned. And
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And Tommy, it may be in his home in the near future. We're
Yes.
working a Young Old Heads insider deal to see if we can make it happen because Tommy is a big Giants fan and collector. And he wants to, word of the week, consolidate.
Yes. Can I go on a little rant here about this card and why it's so special?
You can go on a big rant.
All right. So Max buys this card. I see it on his Twitter feed. I go, "What the hell, Max? You own this card?" As you said, there's 92 copies. You know how many copies are graded? A significantly less amount than 92. So in my head, there's probably 20 of these that exist. They're Buster Posey. His base card in Topps Chrome 2010 as a rookie is a redemption as well. But there's also an autograph redemption, which is the one Max got. He has a 9.510 BGS, which is unbelievable. I never see this card. I think I've seen two possibly at shows. Maybe one was at the National. This is a card that just never pops up. And as you said, we've talked about, I think it was back with Mason, a great episode if anyone is like looking to learn about like flagship rookies and that whole weirdness of rookie cards. It goes in episode 3 with a 33 card shop Mason, one of our favorite collectors out here. But no, that Buster Posey card, in terms of my collection, is one that I was like, maybe 10 years down the line, I could get my hands on it. But when I called you yesterday from the airport flying home, I was like, Max, what do I got to do to make this happen? You gave me a number that seems reasonable to me to consolidate. Um, I have never actually consolidated though. So in all honesty, I'm a collector. And people know that I have a lot of cards. I have a lot of binders. I talked about that at the beginning, but I don't really sell off stuff that I like very often, mainly because I don't buy beyond my means. I buy, cheap cards. I buy every paycheck. I'll spend a portion of it on some cheap, cards that I think are cool. Every once in a while, I'll splurge if I get like my COVID checks or whatever, or my tax return, I'll spend a little bit more money on a cool card. But this is the first card that's ever made me go, all right, I need to sell stuff that I actually really like to make this happen. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna have a huge sale on Twitter, and I'll probably sell some on eBay as well to try to collect the funds. Something that is great, Max, is that you're letting me have some time here to make it happen, which I will make it happen. But yeah, so keep an eye out. TV Sports Cards on Twitter is going to be having a huge sale next week, post the wedding at my sister's wedding. It's going to be selling a lot of cool rookie cards, a lot of cool PC stuff, but also just like superstars that I've like bought cards of throughout the years because I thought they were cool. So just keep an eye out for that. It'll be a lot of different values of cards, nothing less than $1, but nothing, up to $500 possibly, depending on how I'm feeling. So keep an eye out for that. There's gonna be some cool stuff. But yes, when I saw that card, Max, it was the first time in my entire collecting life where I was like, I'm gonna sell a bunch of stuff to make this happen. And I appreciate you being the dealer slash collector that you are, where you understand how important a card like that could be to my collection and what something that I will always hold. And whenever you come hang out at my apartment in the future, you will always see that card and know that you hooked it up. And I appreciate that. So this is just another great story of a dealer blessing a collector, and also just a different way of like, I think consolidating is something that a lot of people talk about a lot because I see, oh, I don't want to trade. I don't want to try to trade something on Twitter because that means that someone's going to say, hey, take 10 of these cards for my one card. And that's usually not a good deal for most people. And people are trying to consolidate. I hear a lot of like, oh, I'll give you 20 cards for 5 cards or something. And I'm like, as someone who does a lot of trading of like mid to mid level cards, I'm like, dude, I don't really want to do that. Like, I only want to trade at the same level, like 2 for 2, or like I'll do like 4 for 2, that level, but I'm not going to do like a huge lot for one single card. I've only done that a couple times when I've had the means to make that happen. But this is a classic case, Max, of the consolidation is just what I like to talk about, the collecting gut, my gut as a collector. And sometimes I'll see a card, mainly it's like a show radar thing. I think I've talked about this a little bit before, where I'm at a show and I see a card and I'm like, I don't know if I've seen that card before. And it just makes me instantly want to buy it. This Posey I've thought about a lot, but only in a distant future sense. But now that I have the inventory to make it happen, I think, and the ways of liquidating my cards that I do have into making that cash that I can spend, pay to you, is very, very, very exciting to me, and I cannot wait to make it happen, Max. Let's fucking go.
Yes, I love hookups, and I'm glad that we are able to make this happen. Something that I think is, when we're remarking there, because you really gave a lot of meat on that bone, and I'm going to eat my filet in full. There is, because when we're talking about, look, that you see a card, you buy it, you have a lot of cheap cards in your binders. I am that way at heart. I have my Glaber binder, which, although hasn't been added too much to lately, a little bit was of that is intentional, just because if I buy a $5 Glaber card, that means 20 of them becomes $100 bill, a nice little Ben Franklin. And those are cards, not only that, I mean, I don't want to move them. I'm buying them for enjoyment. I'm buying them like I am a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup at Rite Aid. But they're cards that really become where you can't move them unless they're scarce. Even then, and then you have liquidity issues. The one thing that's nice about having a bigger PC card, which I will once again grab my Glaber Torres Red Ink, which I am above comps on, if it is ever going for sale, or at least I think it is above comps, is that if I want to liquidate this, I can. It's one of Glaber's better cards. I'm holding the Heritage Red Ink for the Audible listeners. But it's something that, okay, if I, Glaber Torres gets traded, I can move that quickly and move on rather than having my binder, which against my will, I'm not able to move. Regarding trading, which you also mentioned, you love trading. Our first interaction was in a failed misconnection trade. But with that aside, I try to trade with a liquidity and dealer's mindset in mind, unless it's something that I need to have. Like I finagled in some rarer trout stuff, not necessarily high value, just rarer stuff. I have a camo out of 25 from 2022 Top Series 1 of Mike Trout. There's only 24 other copies. Copies of camos in general just don't sell that much. I would rather have using that as trade ammo for a rarer trout or something that's similar than $300 cash. Because I know $300 cash, I'm not necessarily going to be able to find another camo.
That's actually really interesting. So this week I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, which was the podcast that kind of got me into sports podcasting back in middle school. And I don't listen to it too often, but I was taking a flight and I always listen to whatever his recent one was on my flights. And he was talking about his trade value rankings of the NBA players, which is like a valuing of how valuable a player is based on their trade value. And it actually made me start thinking about like cards trade value, like a card trade value power ranking and how like that is different. And I think there's multiple factors involved. One of them is, who you're selling, who you're trading to. If you're trading to a collector, a rare trout like that is extremely valuable, probably over whatever you could probably get on eBay because maybe there aren't any up on eBay. If you're trading
I'm
to a
going to draw.
dealer, no. What do you say?
Oh, so I'm going to draw a parallel to an episode of the Sasha T podcast when he hosted She Collects Cards. And She Collects Cards was specifically referencing how, with the highest end of F1 collectors, I'm not sure if Sunsport Trading was mentioned this when he was on our pod, but once you get to the highest end, types of diehard F1 collectors, they don't necessarily want cash. They want the rare card because the rare card is what is less scarce. To an extent, everyone has cash to some degree or volume, but there's only so many copies of an out of 10 or a one of one or a Lewis Hamilton auto or Mike Trout vet, short printed camo or something of the like. So there is a degree to where I have some cards that I am above comps intentionally for because I know my true worth and true value, saying that a little bit jokingly, but because you know that you're not going to be able to see one again and that you can stretch the monetary value you can get for it.
Yeah. And something that is making me think about is like if you're trading with a collector versus a dealer, and I've done both these things, the dealer wants cards that are liquid, like you can trade a dealer 10 Aaron Judge rookie cards at $15 value for a $150 card when he knows he's going to get $25 each on those Judge cards. But maybe a normal collector doesn't want 10 Aaron Judge rookie cards. They don't want that much volume or whatever. So that's something to think about, I think, when you think about trading a card. But yeah, I think the rarity aspect, we've talked a lot about the differences in rarity and how that rarity impacts value and how certain things that are rare aren't always super valuable. But I think trade value is something that we haven't really talked about with those cards. I think it's really important. Like that Buster Posey autograph redemption, that card has insane trade value because you're not going to see another one, or someone's not going to be available, around to make that happen. And as we talked about, if you really are trying to do like some serious baseball card collecting and put together a really cool collection, and one we've always talked about is the Topps Chrome Hall of Fame autograph run, which we have talked about, but not for a long time. And I think is worth bringing up now with the Tatis news, with everything going on with like people, the sky is falling with Tatis taking roids or something. And it's worth bringing up again because collecting is fun and like projecting out modern collecting. Stop screaming. Turn your sound off, bro.
I thought the sound was off.
No, I've heard
Oh
all your
no.
screenshots. All right.
You
Shout
heard
out
all of them?
everyone.
I want to...
I should have said earlier. All right.
Okay, well, in my
Everyone at
defense,
home. No.
I'm
What do you say?
screenshotting interesting cards in my
I know, I
defense.
know, I know. You're good. You're good. So every time in this episode you've heard the little sound, that's just Max making the podcast better. So
Yes.
everyone can forget about that. But
How does it work regardless?
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
the producer. I'm not
Honestly,
the
Max,
producer of this podcast for a reason.
this is something people have talked to me about. They're like, you guys are so bad with like technology on this podcast. And I'm like, dude, young old heads, we're still old heads. Just let us be. The content is what it's all about. It's about the words that we say,
Yeah, the
not
prose,
necessarily the
the
weird
poetry.
sounds that yeah, the poetry, not necessarily the weird sounds you hear pop up in the background, but it's just more authentic,
We'll
you know?
get
We're
we'll get this
authentic
we'll get this
collectors.
we'll get this kinked out by episode 168. Don't worry.
Oh, by episode 100, we're gonna have a studio. I'll be kicking it. We're gonna be drinking.
Are we getting sponsors?
I think the first. Well, I just saw something on Twitter about how J.R. Smith was so good in the NBA and so popular that Hennessy sponsored the NBA. So I'm starting to think that maybe we can go outside of cards for our first sponsorship. We'll see though. We'll see. I do
Oh,
see ComC sponsoring a lot of podcasts these days. I like what ComC does, just in general. I just want to give a quick shout out to ComC on a random aside. I just like what they do. But back to the trade value aspect of things, it's like this is a trade for me, basically, buying this Buster Posey card because I'm someone who does trade a lot. So I'm like, and I've heard this said on Twitter a bunch where like we don't need to do a trade. Let's just sell and then like let's trade cash, basically. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And that's what I wanted to do here with the Buster Posey card that you have. Basically, trade all of my cards that are a significant portion of like half collections that I've built. Like I'm trading out a lot of my flagship rookie cards from Topps Baseball, like guys that I think are going to be in the Hall of Fame in the future. Because first, I collect gold cups now primarily, so I've been wanting to get rid of those anyway. And two, because I know I need cash for the first time ever. Really, I need cash to buy cards, so it's gonna be fun to do that. I'm looking forward to reflecting on that process and future episodes too, because um, it's always easy to say you're going to do something, but the actual process of going through and making it happen is always difficult. I've heard a lot like, "Oh, I love eBay." The people that love eBay are the people that like list cards on eBay, and the people that hate eBay are like, listing would take forever," and they never list their cards. Is that something that you felt before too, Max?
I like buying on eBay. I like selling on eBay. I like trying to, and I think I was saying this in earlier episodes. A common theme is referencing earlier episodes in this podcast, but trying to get the card to where it's going to its final step and its final home to the farthest extent that you possibly can, whether that's a PC player, collector, or an investor. I moved my Gabriel Arias Orange Mega PSA 10. It was something that I cracked from an SGC 10. I bought it right before he got hurt, and then he was scorching hot in pricing and then just went cold. And I definitely took a loss on the card, which for a SGC 10 to PSA 10 crossover, I previously thought would be impossible. But I crossed over and still lost money. And I sold it to a Gabriel Arias investor who is still a believer on him and someone who I know is going to be holding the card for the next several months. And I'm happy, happy in two respects. One, that I'm giving it to the demographic of buyer that is going to pay the most for that card, as well as it going to a good home with a lot of other Gabriel Arias cards.
Shout out.
Or is it Arias? I'm not sure.
Who knows? Max mispronounces things all the time. We're gonna give him a slide on that. Max, there's one other thing I want to talk to you about this week, and I didn't preface this to you before because I just want to get your raw emotions on this.
You always give it to me blind.
I know I do, but you have some beef with an MLB player, an ex MLB player now, and I want to hear the story behind how that happened.
No beef. I would never do any beef. Just a little poking fun, which some people take the wrong way. Not even necessarily saying this baseball player, but we have a clip on this show of Tatis being free money, and I have joked and jested around on how good of a buy Fernando Tatis is, but when he gets a little bit of a PED suspension, the prices go down. So after a series of tweets making fun of myself, I decided to poke a little fun at former MLB pitcher Phil Hughes, saying I looked at his Tatis Sapphire Rainbow and I said something along the lines of, okay, well, at least I don't own this. And then he responds about how I will not be able to afford it. And then the next morning, 5 a.m. Pacific time, or maybe he couldn't sleep that night because thinking of my tweet. I am getting ready to go to the Empire State Show. I send a picture of my jean jacket at 8 a.m. And then he responds, okay, at least I don't know this. Or it was the exact diction of what I said in my original tweet. And I found that to be funny. And then what I
It's
found out
so good.
found it even funnier was someone took a Phil Hughes game used relic and they photoshopped a jean jacket on it. And I just find that to be the funniest thing. But no, it was not a personal attack against Phil. No, I'm not making fun of the Tatis injury, nor am I happy about it. I've had some people say that I am happy at others people's misery, especially with the weird context that I am obviously losing some stuff on Tatis going in the red as well. I'm not happy that someone who is was on a possible maybe quasi in a blue moon, not a blue moon Hall of Fame trajectory may have that jeopardized, but not financial advice. I'll be buying Tatis a few months from now. This won't be the last you hear from me.
Oh boy. So for the people back home, if you don't know, when Max puts on a jean jacket, it's basically like Tiger Woods putting on a red shirt on Sunday. It's like he's going into his card show mode. It's a big important thing. So
Yeah, I
Phil
go
Hughes,
full Canadian tuxedo.
yeah, full Canadian tuxedo. It's really something to see. And Phil Hughes acknowledging it, I think, just as a legitimizes Cards Max more and more as possibly one
Yeah,
of the best Twitter personalities out there. And
but we can clip this. Phil Hughes, no hard feelings. I like to poke fun, and I'm glad you poke fun at me back.
yes, Phil Hughes, we love you here. Come on the pod, please. But the basically, I just want people to know that you're losing on Tatis too. You're not actually
Oh,
how
which
you're
is
not.
the only reason why I made the joke in the first place was because I'm losing on Tatis as well.
Yeah, and we're about self-deprecation here. That's what we
I
love to do,
I bought a I bought Tatis today.
dude. Why?
I don't
All
think I
right,
told you. I bought it.
this is gonna be really interesting to
Uh,
see what happens with a Tatis, man. It's gonna be really
I
interesting to see.
I was I was on a friend's whatnot stream. Shout out at Dari Razvani. He is streaming on Whatnot every Saturday and Sunday afternoon, and he
Shout
threw
out
some.
Dari.
Shout out Dari. I love Dari, and of course I try to be there to support as well as make sure deals don't fall too far down the cracks. And he threw up a Bowman's Best Fernando Tatis 2019 rookie card auto out of 99. It was a PSA 9 with a 10 auto, and I won it for $200, which maybe I'm crazy for buying this quick into the news, but I'm thinking no matter what, Tatis rookie card ink that's licensed and numbered for $200 sounds like a good deal to me, regardless. So I jumped on that. That's the first Tatis I have bought for post PED news. I am probably going to be dropping more Tatis. No, I'm going to probably be dropping most of my Tatis off at the consigner that I use, PC Sports Cards. They're local on Long Island. I love them. They're like a top 7 eBay seller for sports cards. I love them. They process fast. I'm probably going to be dropping most of my Tatis off. I am going to be keeping my iconic Tatis PSA 8 Blue Mini out of 10 for all the people that know my PC or know what is in my backpack very well. That card is staying in the household, and this is a good time to live, laugh, love Tatis.
Yeah, wow. This is just making my heart so full listening to her talk about this. First of all, the Tatis Mini out of 10 is one of the best cards out there. I will die on that hill. Alex Saratoga Slab's going to hate on it, but shout out that card. Ridiculous that you bought Tatis. This is saying that as someone who collects Barry Bonds cards on the occasion. Pretty funny that you're doing that. But I'm just sad, man. I love Tatis. I love baseball. I love collecting Tatis's gold cups, and I love him as a player, watching him hit dingers, and I think he's so good for baseball. And I know we don't really do like this is news that really hits both, the collecting card world and as well as like I know I always say we can't do sports
Yeah, it's the
analysis.
collecting, and the flipping.
Yeah, and I can't. This isn't talking sports analysis here. This is just collecting feelings. Like I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't just like emphasize how sad it is that this is happening and how much of a bummer it is. And maybe that's my ignorance. Like I wasn't online collecting during like Ryan Braun's original thing, and I've heard his name tossed around a bunch with the Tatis news about how his career started and the impact of the PED news there, and that's definitely worth some, like, if you're looking to buy Tatis cards right now, that's a good market to look at because obviously Braun didn't really have the career pan out quite as well as people still think Tatis might turn out, but I don't know. Regardless, bad news for collectors or possible good news.
Yes,
I don't
yes.
know, man. Good news for collectors? Tell me how it is.
I am telling you that the biggest thing to come from this is how Tatis is not getting the PED suspension for his performance in 2021 2020, but rather during the concealing of the injury and the recovery from the injury. When we're looking, let's say Tatis continues the trajectory that he had as of the end of last season from a career performance standpoint. When we're looking at the Hall of Fame, I think we get into a situation that's closer to David Ortiz than one of Barry Bonds, where sure it is a PED suspension that he tests positive for, but one where it was when he was recovering and when there was an MLB lockout at the time. It's one where there's a kind of an asterisk, and it's not like, okay, you are getting your PED suspension for like Robinson Cano for performance, and your performance declines immediately once you get caught.
Yeah, I think I do really believe that if Tatis comes back and kills it, people are going to be willing to forgive this. They did with Ortiz, and I think it's very likely that it can happen with Tatis. This is not saying bye Tatis, but that's definitely where I'm at on it, where I've landed on it, where I'm like, it's a bummer, but let's see what you got, man. Like, if you prove yourself consistently, people are willing to forgive, and I think that could change. I think collecting wise, I think the hobby has shown a significant deterrence to anyone who's related to steroids. I think Bonds is obviously really hard to compare the steroid era because of the junk wax era alongside it. You can't really compare those guys quite as much, just the lack of variations and rare cards that do come out of that. But Bonds cards still sell for a lot, but obviously Bonds had one of the longest careers ever, and like broke all these records. So that's a whole different ball game. So A-Rod probably is a good example as well to look into. I know his cards don't go for too much these days. I don't even really know if he has to. Like, what even is the biggest A-Rod card? Do you know, Max, off the top of your head? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, let's not talk about that then. But
You're
I think that,
stretching my knowledge.
so other than Phil Hughes being a young old head, there's one other thing that I wanted to talk to you about this week, which is you were buying quarterback cards, and I want to know what the deal is with that.
Which quarterbacks was I think I dabbled in some Kyler Murray, and I dabbled in some Jalen Hurts.
Yes, you did. Why are you doing that?
The Kyler Murray's was just me buying at the New Yorker show, the Big Apple. People wanted to cash out at 70%. I paid aggressive. So this is my full philosophy. Yeah. So I think I bought a Brady card, which I've since traded. I bought a Kyler Murray XRC, and I bought a Kyler Murray RPA. On the first two cards, I was just purely buying at 70%, and I sold them pretty quickly. And that is just the numbers game. The whole point of buying at 70% is so that you can act like a Neanderthal and just purely number churn. And I don't have to know every single. I mean, I'm fluent in sports cards, and I love cards, and I love cards, and I love cards, but I'm not an expert in football cards. But that gives enough margin to where you can make it a little bit of a lubricant and a slippery slope and be successful in doing it. The Kyler Murray RPA, I was thinking that the last comp was in May, and I was going to pay a little bit more aggressive to that, but there was a July comp that was the exact same thing as the May comp. So that's one where I'm a little bit hazier on. My margins will be a little bit thinner, but one where I am taking that risk anyway. So the Jalen Hurts, however, was an eBay bin buy, and I was stretching my knowledge of parallels, knowing that retail in 2020 Select, I believe in later Select releases as well, there are the retail exclusive Zebra die cuts and the hobby exclusive Zebra full cards. It is important now. They obviously look similar, the retail die cuts for Zebras and the full card for Zebras. But since the full card Zebras are hobby only, they are significantly more short printed, or at least more short printed enough to where it matters. and I saw a full zebra listed at the same price as what zebra die cuts were going for, and I slammed bin. I don't know if that's going to work out for me, but it was just me trying to make the best of my parallel expertise knowledge.
That's a cool buy. I didn't. That's a cool like backstory on why you bought it. I will say that Select was retail before 2020. 2020 was the first year of Select retail. So just so you know. But good to hear your background. I was a little worried for you. I know we like to joke about quarterbacks on here, but
Yeah.
seeing you buy some, I wanted to check in, make sure everything.
Oh, absolutely. Make sure that I'm the same max that I was before. But
Yeah,
it's fun. It is fun to dabble. I always, from a dealer standpoint, it's good to broaden because mostly I don't want to limit myself to just being baseball, especially given the liquidity at certain price points. Like you are much more able to liquidate a $4,000 football card than you are a $4,000 baseball card for modern, in my
yeah,
opinion. Looking at it in a blanket.
yeah, for sure. And I think that's a good point about like diversifying. Like we like to joke about it, but it's also like it is liquid and people do buy it. So it's like at some point you don't have to buy it. Not every card you buy has to be a card that you like are 100% certain is like the card that you would hold for a year if you had to. It's like that's sort of where you're at right now. That's why we're trying to get you employed, and then maybe you won't have to be buying Kyler Murray cards. So Max,
Oh, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. That's what I tell myself.
yeah, you're gonna be fine, dude. We're all gonna be fine. This is a really good episode because I feel like it really let people into the nonsense that goes on behind the scenes of this podcast. So we're a little
Yes.
buttoned up most of the time, but this is a late night edition, after dark, young old heads, episode
It is
16.
12:20. It is 12:26 a.m.
I got one more thing, and then I'm gonna let you go, Max.
Spill it.
There's a there's gonna be a new little bit here at the end that I want to do every week, which is called cards I thought about collecting this week. Cards that you saw on eBay at a show, on Instagram, on Twitter, and we're like, damn, that's a cool card. What if I collected that? And then you were like, nah, I can't do that. So this is my thing of the week. Um, I watched A League of Their Own with my girlfriend this week, and she had never seen it. Great movie. There's no crying in baseball, but I started to look into those All American Women's Baseball League cards. That there's some weird sets that got released throughout the years, and I was like, huh, this could be a cool thing to collect. I'm not gonna let myself do it just because I don't need more things to collect, but I thought that was like, I don't know, it's kind of cool. There are those cards out there if anyone's like really loves that movie or like someone that they know loves that movie. Those cards are out there if you want them. Max, you have anything like that this week? I didn't really give you time to prep this.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Cards that. Yeah. So I guess I've been on a window shopping binge of, I've dabbled in high end, or not, excuse me, definitely not high end trout, but low numbered veteran trout sometimes because it's fun. And I don't know whether it's just because some of the Instagram accounts that I follow that have been showing me this kind of content, but I've been looking more at window shopping Bryce Harper and Miguel Cabrera, like super fractor one of ones. I was watching a 2016 Bowman Chrome Bryce Harper super fractor that ended at auction for like $600. And I'm like, okay, that is like a significant amount of money to where I can't just throw it on my mantle, but also that is a wicked sick card, super fractor of a Hall of Famer. So I don't know if that's entirely in the spirit of what I would collect, but I was definitely doing my research on like really interesting veteran Hall of Famer guys and their super fractors and what their market usually does just for kind of enjoyment purposes. And oh, I would buy this if it made sense to collect.
That's a really good answer. That's a really, really good answer. I know nothing about that market at all. Honestly, never really feel like I even
Oh, I
see old super fractors like that. So I'm excited to ask you more questions about this in the future.
coolest card I saw in the past week was this morning. I really wish Kimball probably knows this in and out, Sunsport Trading. But I saw a Topps triple threads, triple relic of FDR, Harry Truman, and Dwight Eisenhower. And the guy was above comps, but also like there's not many comps to begin with. I know like a JFK, Clinton, and another president triple relic did 200, and this guy's price was $200 for the FDR
Yeah.
Eisenhower Truman, but a copy of the FDR Eisenhower Truman did like $50, and it's like a year ago, and I'm like, I can't pay 4x that. But that was the coolest card where it's like, I want to buy this and not sell it because this is a piece of history.
That's cool.
I was at Teddy Roosevelt's house this weekend as well, and that was fun and cool. And I got a little tour of the house, and that was cool. Oh,
Yeah,
not
that's dope. Oh
Teddy,
wait,
not
dude,
FDR, but yeah.
we didn't even talk about. I was at Field of Dreams game last week. we
Oh
even
yeah,
talk about that.
you're dressing up in the little outfits. You're getting on the Ludex. Download the app now. Just released basketball. Ludex just released.
Just released basketball. Shout out that.
Yes,
But
shout out Ludex.
yeah, yeah, shout out Lodex, obviously. Shout out all the boys. No, we were in the Iowa. I was in Dyersville, Iowa for the Field of Dreams game, which was unbelievable, dude. That place is so cool, and like the whole setup is just so small town. It kind of reminded me of like some of the small golf tournaments I've been to in my life, which is a really niche thing to say. But yeah, really cool experience being there. I got to meet up with like an old friend who works at the MLB now, so got to watch the game. I saw a bunch of like old Hall of Famers walking around. There was only like there's like around 8,000 people there, so to be one of the people there is really cool and lucky. So, yeah, you want something crazy, Max, about this thing? To get
I
to
love
the
crazy.
field, to get to the baseball field, like where the game is, you have to go through the field from the movie, and you have to go through the corn. You have to walk through like 3 or 4 feet of corn to get to the path. So it looks like everyone is ghosts going through this. Like I was like watching from home plate at the movie field, and I was like, what? Everyone has to go through the center field? That looks crazy. Like, but it's just a mass of people, and it looks like you're a ghost when you like are looking from the outside, which is pretty cool. Tops had a Tops truck there. The Tops truck sucks. They give out terrible packs. They don't really have anything to offer there. Be better, Tops, about the Tops truck, please. Just have a better presence at future events. That'd be great for the hobby, I think. And other things to say, just like it was very small and there's a lot of cool people there, but I don't know how much something like that grows the game of baseball. It's a really cool thing for fans, but my idea for baseball is that every team in the MLB should have to play one home game somewhere else from their home stadium. So like my idea is like it'd be super cool if the Giants played a game on Alcatraz or like, some whatever. The Mariners played a game in Alaska or something like that. I think every team should be forced to play one game away at a cool place like that. I think would make the baseball way more fun, add a little element of coolness to something that is a sport that is often lacking in coolness. So that's my 2 cents on that. Max, do you have any thoughts on that before we wrap it up here?
I want to hark on that. Tops and Panini need to have better presence and expand the hobby.
Expand the hobby, be a young old head, and we'll see you guys next week. Max, peace.